Is there such a thing as too much character development when it comes to your story? And if so, where do you draw the line between good character development and too much information? That's exactly what we're talking about today. Let's get started! Hey guys, Nour here, and welcome back to my channel. For those visiting for the first time, hello! I'm the fantasy author of the novel Divinity Falling. Be sure to subscribe for weekly writing advice videos. We often talk about how to better develop our characters so they're well-rounded and feel real. But we never stop to think about the extreme side of character development. That's why I wanted to pose the following question. Can your story have too much character development? If I'm being honest, I've never thought too much about this topic. Not until I read a work in progress by a friend of mine that was full of character development. Don't get me wrong, I will always advocate for character development. That's not even a question. But what I found odd about my friend's work in progress is that it almost felt overwhelming to learn about the characters. By the way, I'm not filming this behind my friend's back. She's very aware of my view, and she even gave me permission to use her as a reference, obviously without diving into the details of her writing, just so that I could protect her work. She also does not have any hard feelings about my views of her work. She's also aware that it needs work, especially since she gave me her very first draft. So she pretty much knew before handing me her story the areas that could use more work. Anyway, what I learned reading her story is that too much character development can be just as hindering as too little character development. What do I mean by too much character development? It's where a story dives deep into what makes characters tick and tries hard to show us their personalities that it completely takes over the plot. In other words, there's more character than there is plot. My friend's story felt like it was 70% about the characters and 30% about the plot and conflict. Now, there's an exception to this. For instance, character-heavy stories can get away with this. In fact, character-heavy stories need to lean more toward character development than plot. That's because we're reading to discover each person's character and see them grow as the story builds. So it's kind of a good thing there. The reason this did not work for my friend's story is because her story is not meant to be a character-heavy story. In fact, her story is a fantasy adventure, so that was problematic for her. An easy way to figure out if your story is meant to be character-heavy or not is to consider what you want your readers to remember about your story. Do you want them to recall every little thing your characters feel? Then you are writing a character-heavy story. Do you want them to recall the conflict and all the action taking place? Then you are writing a plot-heavy story. You could also choose to be somewhere in the middle. Now, when you do have more character development, when you should have more conflict and action, or at least a balance between the two, what do? Obviously, you need to revise your story. This might mean rewriting some chapters or scenes. To do so, go through your story and consider what's filler. Do your characters fight over the same thing many times? Maybe cut down on that. Do your characters have too many flashbacks about a traumatic incident? Maybe cut down on that. Do your characters talk to each other too much, such as about their hopes and dreams and how they feel about each other? Maybe cut down on that. You most likely have too much filler and repetition when it comes to character development, which is why your story feels overwhelming. Removing the unnecessary interactions or keeping them to a minimum will free up room so that you could go in and add some action. So now, all you have to do is rethink your story. Where can you add more action that will help your story move forward? I'm talking about action tied to the central conflict. After all, your goal isn't to swap out filler with a different type of filler. So make sure the action is actually important and not pointless. Once you figure out what kind of action you could add, go ahead and write it into the scenes you already have written. So that's all I have for you today. I'd love to know, do you struggle with balancing character development and plot? Let me know in the comments. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe. I put out weekly writing advice videos that will take your story to the next level. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media to see what I'm up to from day to day and to chat with me. And before we go, I just want to give a quick shout out to Sarah Frayne, Lori B, and Alan J. Early from my shout outs here over on Patreon, as well as all my amazing patrons. Thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate you. And remember, Nour for president!